to our lives.
Okay, please proceed, unless we want to respect everybody's time. Sorry, we apologize, even though it's a technical issue.
So previous in the past with the bars, they would be illegally parking on my property, in the back of my garage, on my side of the garage. I couldn't get out.
Okay.
So I stayed in there for the next morning.
Okay.
So the only concerns I worry about is the residents and the business owners that had to bear with that, and then police officers as well, when they had to come for a call. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Anyone
That
else?
is your last speaker.
Okay. Ms. Rice, would you please come back?
Hi.
Oh, okay. Well, committee probably gonna need, ask her some more questions. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, please.
As you heard from the Uptown bid and some of the business owners and the neighbors, and they're in opposition of this liquor license, I come to speak in support of it because I believe that everyone deserves an opportunity to try. There is bias mentioned from what's occurred at this location from the previous owners. There is mention of issues at other locations that is not this individual here. We're talking about a leasee coming into a building that had properties, that is coming to try to hopefully switch it up, but they don't have, you won't know if it's a change, if it can change, if you don't give folks a chance. The issue that's mentioned a lot is public safety. So that's an issue that needs to be a tad bit more addressed with individuals who deal with public safety. There is a mention of the building having, looking run down. That is the building owner's responsibility, not the leasing of the basement. So perhaps neighborhood enforcement has to come through and do some citations and issues of the front of the building. But I feel everyone deserves a fair chance to try until proven wrong. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was gonna be a speaking,
Oh, did you?
but I never signed up.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can.
Sorry.
You sign up, okay. Ms. Rice, though, since you're here, I'll let.
No, he wants to do public comment, so
Oh,
he doesn't need to sit right and
All
put
right.
pressure on her.
all right, then, please, again, please keep it brief. Okay, thank you, Ms. Rice.
Sorry about that.
All right, please keep it brief.
Hello, everyone.
State your name and
Appreciate it.
first.
Mario Martinez, 1500 Am Street. A few years back, I was part of the Racine Revitalization Partnership, which, in our particular goal was to set up properties in the area. We built properties, upgraded a bunch of properties in that area, and they continue to do that. I know that Racine, or the partnership continues to do that. And then I actually moved in there and upgraded a property myself. And I feel like this kind of thing is just not part of that vision. You know, I'm all for business owners. I've been in business for 38 years, and I would love to see this particular kind of business succeed. But I don't know if the timing is really the best right now for something like this, because the last thing we want to have is to have things held up as far as, you know, people maybe getting real discouraged about being in that area, because I've seen some pretty crazy stuff happen. I'm somebody who's very concerned about my safety, my wife's safety, and at the same time, I think that even with a good amount of security, I think you're going to still have some problems. It's going to be very, very difficult to offset a lot of the issues that happen there. So I definitely, for now, am not in support of this particular thing. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. But by the way, I think you've been in business for a bit more than 38 years. We both were. Yes, sir. Yes, please. And please state your name and everything.
Michael D. Shields, ex-alderman of the district, And I wasn't gonna make a comment till I heard some of the comments that I heard. And I always believe that everyone deserves a fair chance. Business is a business, and you can't make an assumption that just because they're selling alcohol, that it's gonna be just as worse as the last business. Everyone deserves a chance, and that's why this committee is here. If you call them in, if they break any of the rules, you call them back in. And I would assume that you would do that. But every business deserves a chance, and alcohol is a problem no matter where you go. But we're assuming that this particular building is gonna be terrible because they're selling alcohol. I don't think that's fair, and I think you should give everybody a fair shake.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else want to speak to this particular item before I ask Ms. Wright, the applicant, to come back? Okay, you're good, thank you. You don't want to have keep doing that. Are there any questions from the committee?
Yeah, I'll have some, but if anybody else.
Any questions? Do you have any questions? Yes, please.
Is the building owner here tonight, or?
No,
No.
he's not.
So you're leasing the space from him?
Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming this was the same guy that came in previously, okay.
Mhm.
And you had mentioned, something about putting your own money in to rehab place or to that space.
Okay, so to address that, as well as a few of their concerns if I can. So I heard everyone's concern about the outside of the building, the way everything looks. Guess what? I thought the same thing when I pulled up to the building, and I have spent my own money. I spent over $15,000 so far, and that's not even the rest that's going to have to be spent just with making, updates, as well as I've been talking to the owner. That's why I'm taking over this. I have never known this owner before I decided to lease this building. I seen the ad, I'm not from Racine, and I thought, I see an opportunity, and I see the beautiful area just as well as everyone else does, and I see potential in this building. And so I started off at the bottom to fix that, but I also see so much more. I see him getting that upstairs fixed, and again, I don't have a problem with investing if I'm able to, because I'm financially able to, help him get things fixed up so it doesn't look like an eyesore, because again, even with it just being a dream lounge downstairs, it's still, you can't really tell which part of it is the lounge area. So, of course, that's what I've been talking to him about, making upgrades, and he has been, and that's the reason, of course, why he's trying to lease the building as well, so that he can get those upgrades done. I am not the owner of the building. I cannot speak for the past, but I do ask you guys for opportunity, because I am willing to, make different things, and I can't speak for what happened. I was not a patron.
Sure.
I personally do not drink alcohol. So, I personally do not smoke, but I am never scared of a challenge, and I see this as an opportunity, so I would just feel like I would like a fair chance to show you guys that I'm not like the previous owner, I'm not like all the other establishments. I do know what it is to keep things up to code. I can enforce extra security. I will not get up here and say, oh, I can guarantee you there will never be a fight or things will be perfect, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure things are good. As far as parking, I will encourage ride share as much as possible, and also encourage people to use the public parking that is there. Of course, I cannot control everything, but I will have security to make sure that ramp is always clear. I will add extra lighting in the back of the building so that it can brighten up the building. When the weather break, my proposal to the owner was to get the outside of the building painted and cleaned and pressure washed so that it can look good, not just for a dream, but just for everything in that area. We want to try to give it a little facelift. So those are things that I have noticed as well, and that I was trying to address as well.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm all about giving people chances. The only concern is, seeing you put in your personal money into, any upgrades. I noticed that, this particular building has delinquent taxes. They haven't paid their taxes since 2021. So to me, that's a concern, because I'd hate for you know, you to open up and then something happens, so, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at on the fence with that, that's all I got.
I'll speak on it. And that was something he did bring to my attention, and that's why he was trying to lease the building so that he can catch up on his taxes. He did bring that to my attention, so I'm not sure if he would have paid, I can't vouch for that, but he did bring that to my attention as well. He was going to lease the building so that he can, you know, try to get caught up on his taxes and do the upgrade so he can finish the top portion that was brought to my attention.
Yeah, I just looked this down, as of now, it's still delinquent, so.
Alderman Gray?
Thanks. That's right. I can tell you that, I get really excited when somebody's, looking to invest in the Racine community. So that's really exciting to me. And when you said a social lounge, and I think of all the times that I've traveled, and we're looking for places to go, and that's pretty exciting to think about, you know, bringing some options into Racine. Oftentimes, maybe what I would experience elsewhere, it just kind of shows this vibrant community when there's options, right, and unique options. And there's one thing that I have a hard time with, and it's because I'm always consistent, and I have taken this stance once I came back on the council here, and especially in public safety, when I had to learn about some changes that have gone on with some ordinances, and I realized we were having problems with some inconsistencies with us approving some and not the others when there is a falsified statement. And so I've taken the stance is I need to be consistent. I look at you, I admire your work with the adult homes, and I can relate to that, and I can admire that you want to invest here. And so I look at you and I'm like, yes, I want to give a chance, because all those things are exciting, but I didn't give the person before, or the person before, or the person before, because of that falsified statement. And I'll tell you why that's such a really big problem when you have that this is our first introductory to you, and then what you've presented to us here. And you've had an opportunity to now hear residents and other business owners in the area, which is so crucial and important. I was in charge of business operations and business management, so I understand business development. And I know with any type of business development, especially in the hospitality industry, a comprehensive research is very essential. It's essential for success. And this includes not only market analysis, but also business planning. And I do read what you presented here, but understanding that the history and the concerns of the neighbors where you operate is just as important. And you just can't say, I'm bringing something new because you heard those wounds, right? I know you're sitting here and you're hearing those wounds. That's a huge mountain. That's an obstacle that's really big, because those are your neighbors. You want to be part of this and become an asset in that area. So you have to build this trust, and that's very difficult in any business setting, you know, when I'm working with business development, right? So when we're hearing what's highlighted from the residents this evening, you hear the numerous police calls, the community complaints, you're hearing about neighborhood relations, and you're hearing that it's hard for them to recover. Once incidences occur, they still have to be present there and conduct their business or live in their home. And so the community feedback that I think we've heard today and that you've heard is so valuable when looking to operate a business. So I hope you've absorbed that and have created maybe some solutions, or you're trying to think through that in your head. But so establishing trust and addressing their legitimate concerns would be foundational for success. I mean, I know I'm repeating that a little bit, but I think what my biggest issue, again, to go back to the beginning, I'm only one person, so I like to thoroughly just dump it out at you so you know where I'm coming from, in case we ever need to talk again. I know I have committee members here, but, you know, the Wisconsin state statute in which that we look upon when creating the ordinances and the guidances for us to make decisions. That was Wisconsin State Statute 12504-6, I believe, I'm looking at the attorney, but, I'm pretty sure it is. But it, requires the applicant to demonstrate eligibility and good moral character, with, fundamentally includes trustworthiness and truthfulness during the application process. So now we have, under our own city policy and guideline, which is right under there, clearly, you will be disqualified if you falsify a statement on our application process. And, you know, way back when this started, when I started seeing this, I'm like, I need to see this application process, because it wasn't part of our book. And it is the most simplest application. It clearly states on there, all convictions must be disclosed. And I will tell you, every single applicant who falsified it, every single one, no exception, had said it was an oversight. Every single one. And there's ones that were from a year ago, and then ones that, you know, were from 10 years ago. And I know I'm not somebody who's, you know, running into the law in a negative way. And I would think if at any point, even with a misunderstanding, those things stand out in your life. You're a respectable businesswoman. I mean, what you put together, you can tell you put some thought. And so I just don't see that being a clear oversight. And so I need to stick to my position and consistency, just for my own integrity on here. But you've heard all my other position, and, you know, if it does pass, please take within your business operation plan the consideration of the neighbors to be just as big and robust as your application as what your business plan will be to build that trust back up in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so originally, when this place opened, I was all supportive of the owner. I mean, I even talked to some of the neighbors, and they were supportive of it. But I've known a lot of these people that live around there for years, and they've gone through hell. And we keep getting promises, and I'm not saying it's not, you can't do it, but I'm listening to these neighbors. They've lived it, they're living it. And I just can't in good conscience go against these people that have stuck everything that they've had in a place that they own. And so, it's nothing against you, ma'am, but I just can't support this listening to the neighbors. I said, I know some people, neighbors there that were moved out because of the problems over there. We have to start mending fences over there and fixing things and making better businesses. So I will not be supporting that.
Is there any other discussion? Yes.
I just have another thing. You know, I understand that what happens in a place before you isn't necessarily your fault, and I know that's probably, it has a defensive response internally as you hear some of these, because I know you probably bring good intentions, new ideas, and that can be very challenging, but I guess it really marks just how impactful harm can be by somebody else's doing, especially if you want to step in the center of that same wound. And so, I think that with any new business idea, new business plan, always has the best intentions, but there is, and you can see historically, so me looking at business development, working in business development, you can have the very best plan, the absolute best plan, but as you know, location, 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 if you hear that with any business development. And so this is a hard one, because that building, I think, was that the old Tradewind building?
Yeah.
Right? It's designed for entertainment. I mean, you know, you're down there, you've already created a space. That's what it's designed for. So you're hearing nobody wants to see it there, and it's like, well, what could it possibly be? What could come before us? And we're like, that covers the wound. So in a sense, I almost don't want you to take this the comments that you're hearing as any reflection against you. You know, I just think, again, it's that location, 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 and I'm just not sure what would make this community embrace it over there. You know, I'm sitting here trying to think of it. So, I just don't want you walking away and feeling it's something to do with you personally, besides the documents that you did fill out right. So take that with you, wear that, but don't wear the rest of it, okay?
Okay. I don't see any other hands up. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. Is there a motion?
To deny?
Second.
I have,
It's already been motioned and seconded.
any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
She said aye.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry then. Okay. Thank you for your efforts. We appreciate it. You
All
ready?
right, next item, 0239-25, communication sponsored by Alder Pete on behalf of the Public Safety and Licensing Committee, requesting the appearance of Natasha Evans, agent for Select 627 LLC, Select located at 1111 Washington Ave, pursuant to a formal expression of concern, and also requesting consideration of rescinding the formal expression of concern. Could move all chatter out to the hall, please, thank you.
I think we should go with the police report.
Swear the applicant.
Yeah, that part first.
You can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming in. Certain things, I'm sure you had the communication from the attorney's office, but, okay, and I'm gonna let the, officer neighbor speak to the police report. But you were called in, I wanna make sure you understand exactly why you're here. You were called in because the license is less than 6 months old, but there's quite a few complaints from the, police department with things on premises. And there's, at this point, allegations of breaking some other laws with, I'll just call it adult entertainment. There's been parking issues. Some of these we talked about during the business planning stage. So, and overall, these are the issues that made us have to call you in at this point in time. We'd like to hear, number one, before we're done, what plans you have to fix the issues and address the, one that's more of a criminal allegation. And I'll turn it over to Sergeant Neighbors next.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
So since December, we've had 6 to 8 calls of service, to the establishment, two to three of those calls being fight calls, numerous parking concerns, including parking at Tino's and the BP, complaint of strippers and adult entertainment, and I mentioned of underage guests attending this establishment.
Okay.
So, I fully supported when you opened, Natasha. You promised you were gonna have a club of 35 and over, you weren't gonna have no problems. I told you about the problems with parking over there, they couldn't park in Tino's and these other establishments. But I've been getting calls over the last few weekends. I mean, I go past there are people parked in driveways. Tino's, they're parked. You can't get cars in and out of there, they're not supposed to be parked in there. These businesses are told to block off the driveways, and it shouldn't be on them. This has to do with your business. I mean, you're not giving us what you said you were gonna deliver to us. I mean, there's so many numerous problems. I hear you're charging like $40 for some people to get in and stuff like that. Pictures of strippers going on there, and this isn't what you promised us, and I wanna know how you're gonna fix this, because I'm talking to the businesses around there, and they're gonna probably be getting people, they're gonna get it set up, and cars are gonna be towed out of these places, and it's gonna be on them and not on the establishments. The police can't, when your place closed down, they're sitting in Tino's parking lot partying after late hours. And like I said, this is not what you promised us. I know you put a lot of money into this place, and I fully supported what you do, but I don't see that we're getting what you promised delivered to us, so you gotta convince me.
Okay, with the incident with the adult entertainment, I'm going to address that incident first. I'm responding regarding a recent complaint received by the city attorney's office concerning the licensed event that took place on January 30th, 2025. The complaint alleges that the event involved adult entertainment as detailed in the attached letter. We would like to clarify for the record, Select 627 does not advocate or condone adult entertainment as described in the city correspondence. The party sponsor was not given permission to print or distribute said flyer, and Select will monitor and participate in all advertisement in the future. The party sponsor was properly advised to cease any illegal activities associated with the event, and immediate measures were taken to ensure compliance with city regulations. Additionally, the staff and security personnel at Select 627 are alerted to the situation. They were instructed to monitor behavior closely and to intervene as necessary to prevent any further violations. This initiative-taking approach is aimed at maintaining a safe and compliant environment for patrons and the surrounding community. We recognize the importance of upholding city codes and ordinance and appreciate the diligence of the city attorney's office and the Racine Police Department in addressing this matter. Going forward, all flyers for people that is asking to have a party at Select 627, flyers have to be approved by me before they promote the party.
But how are you gonna address the parking issue over there? Because I complaints from the gas station, and these people are parking all over the place, and I'm hearing people tell them to move, and your customers have threatened some of them.
Well, I wasn't aware of the threat, but initially, our Patriots did have permission from the Tino's owner to park in that parking lot.
Well,
Going forward now.
They're told from the police department now, I mean, the police department are telling them that they have to barricade these on their own, because cars aren't leaving and people aren't leaving after bar time. I mean, I'm getting complaints from the neighbors on the streets that live on their driveways are blocked. People can't get in and out of their driveways. And I mean, this isn't what you promised us.
No, it's not, and like I stated initially, our Patriots did have permission to park in Tino's parking lot. Going forward now, it's only going to be Select 627 staff that's allowed to park in that parking lot. We will increase, once the weather breaks, we will increase security, that will be walking outside, making sure that no one that's not a part of Select staff is parking inside of Tino's parking lot.
I'm not sure anyone's gonna be able to park in there, because they're probably gonna be getting, they're gonna have some company coming in, and cars will be towed away.
Agreement.
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, please. I need order.
This I heard,
We have
from
to have
the
order.
police department, I mean, they want.
Well, but we have an agreement with the owner of Tino's.
Oh, they would, you might wanna get something on your windows, because like I said, I drive by there, I get out of work at, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I drive by there on, Thursday night, there's no parking around there. And I mean, I don't believe that everybody there is 35 and older, which you said you were gonna have. That's what you promised.
No, there wasn't.
Guys, please, I'll let you come up, sir,
When you
but
first came up, you said, maybe it
No,
was
it was
30.
it was 30 in that.
And I'm saying, with all the cars I've seen parked all over around there, I'm just hoping you're not past your limit of people also, because, I mean, I saw tons of cars out there. I want you to succeed, but not at the expense of the
Well,
neighborhood.
just because you see tons of cars out there, that does not mean all the cars out there is a part of Select 627. It's also numerous apartments upstairs above the whole entire, how many buildings, 3-4 buildings. So they can have company, and can be visitors, but their staff, I know me and my husband both drive 2 different vehicles to work,
Okay.
so.
I'm just letting you know what I've been hearing from people and stuff, so.
Do we have
yes, if you wanna sign, if somebody wants to sign up, please. Yes, with this, clerk. Oh, okay. If you'd like to come up this time, you can, yes.
Well, good evening. We come today, Shields and I, being retained by her, and her husband, the owners of Select 627, And, I think I gave the city clerk and stuff some points that I wanted to cover, because when she got these different items, it was kind of perplexing to her and stuff that all these different items came in at the same time. One question that I would like to ask, if I could ask this question, what is litigation?
I use that term because we're in a public session, but some of the pictures that were displayed, I don't know, the attorney has the exact ordinance number, but adult entertainment, basically.
Yeah, but, you know, it said at one particular point that we came forward and we litigated, it would go on future types of action.
Okay, I think I understand.
Litigation, so
I'll get to that part later, yeah.
I wanted to clarify what litigation
Wait a
actually
minute.
meant. Because
Litigation or allegation?
No, litigation.
Oh, okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Anyway, I come forth to you to, tell you or explain to you, Jeff, some of the proactive things that, the Evans family and I and Michael have discussed going forward in as far as monitoring some of these things that, you're talking about. They invested in, Fair Exchange Consulting Group from the beginning. And we're here to support them, in their efforts, and I'm not gonna go over all the points, but you'll see all the points down there. And we have engaged in multiple conversations and stuff as to how we can go forward and correct some of those things that you're talking about. Originally, when they first started and they opened up the bar, they were under the impression that they only had to lease the interior of the bar and not the exterior. So now we're addressing the exterior. We're addressing the neighbors, the neighborhood, the parking. And Michael and I have been in contact with Tino's. And before Tino's was allowing, just that extra parking. But now, due to some of the situations that you're talking about, which are, exterior environment and nature, some of the things that you're talking about and stuff, we've had conversations that we're just gonna limit it to parking for the staff. And then that particular element there, and also the exterior, will be supervised by some security support. And so we won't have to, hopefully we won't have to take up a lot of resources and stuff from the city. Some of the elements, some of the items that we have, which I believe you guys are going to discuss, but some of these items are here, are proactive items that the police department did. They said we assign special attention to this particular place. So that meant that the police department was proactive. So we're not here in a confrontational way. We're here to satisfy some of these.
Okay, and also, I'll go through several things that I think you are alluding to when we're finished, and tell you what the next steps are, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully, this is the last time it's called in, but we'll get to that later. And I think that's what you're really concerned about.
But there'll be no strippers.
Well, that's, like I said, I use the word allegation,
I
but that's a crime.
But, you know, yeah.
That's worse than parking.
But when you look at this particular report coming from.
No, I get it.
Any
Okay.
avenue here, and you look and you say, oh, the flyers and the strippers,
Well, okay. Anybody from the committee have any questions, comments?
Was there more public comment?
I'm sorry?
Was there any more public comment?
I-
There was no one else signed
There
up.
was nobody signed up.
Right.
And did
You're
you
good.
hear from the other one?
We heard from you all, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't want to see it anything else, okay. Okay.
You're good.
So, you know, I was recalling this a bit when I remember, Alderman Coe just really advocating for you. He just kept saying, they bought the building and they bought it, this is on them, you know, we're putting it on them. So I just remember just how much, he was really advocating for approval because of that. And I know you coming before us, it can be, in a sense, troubling. But I think it's our opportunity is like this check-in, right? Things are kind of going awry. I mean, you have a really big responsibility. You own the building, you got a business, you want it for your livelihood. And so you want it to be successful. And, you know, I don't think it's easy to have to face, you know, the negativity that comes with, some consequence of whether it was a decision of your part or, you know, whoever you have managing, but ultimately it falls on your shoulders. And, that's pretty rough. So, you know, I was hearing how many calls, 68 calls since December. I'm like, geez.
Well, we haven't even been open since December.
Well, since you have been open though,
Okay.
yeah.
So I was like, oh, geez, you know, right? You know, upping resources and, you know, you don't want that. You know, something's going on that it's not, you know, you're now in problem-solving mode, right? And so, you know, if you, now partnered up or hired, Keith and Shields to try to help you out with a plan, you know, you need to continue on that path, keep trying to find solutions, because if it keeps going this way, it's gonna be an end, and it's unfortunate. You didn't jump into it and invest in it for it to fail. I just remember you guys were ripping off walls or something.
I mean, they did a beautiful job, I gotta say.
And I don't want this ugliness to mar all your investments. So, you know, keep it up and keep reaching out. You know, we're not, I mean, I don't have any solutions for you, but still, the city, if they have it, the police department.
Well, I do wanna say, some of these calls is saying, like, I know one of the calls saying, cooperative unknown caller. I'm actually the one who made that call. My security guys tried to get everyone to disperse. It was unsuccessful, so I'm the person who called the police. When the police got there, everyone had, by that time, left. They came in, they asked for my license, wasn't no one there. But I'm comfortable with calling the police if we need help with getting the crowd.
Good. Well, that's good. Now we just gotta establish, how do we have a healthy crowd, right? How do we establish a healthy crowd? How do we keep having a positive draw? You know, apparently if there's a crowd, you got something going on, right? And, we just gotta make sure it's something that, aligns with our laws, first of all, and something that also is profitable for your business, and you can bring just a positive entertainment or not the other type of entertainment, but, so, you know, I'm glad that we have this check-in. I don't know if we're just time to recalibrate, right? So let's be successful, let it be an asset to our community, and, you know, let it be prosperous for you and your business. Yeah, you're welcome. I think I want some clarification from the attorney's office if this isn't rescinded. So I think you have so many within so many months.
I'll go through that before we're done. I'm gonna go through that. Well, I have it right, same thing. I have the same thing they have.
Could I have the attorney just read it off and?
Sure.
Okay.
So the, formal expression of concern system, it's a 3-strike system. Each strike is called a formal expression of concern. The first one is considered a warning by the committee, and then, the penalties occur if there's a second within a 6-month period or a third within a 1-year period.
That's what I was gonna, when I said I'll get to that.
He's so eloquently states it from the attorney, but, so what this really, you know, with this warning, you know, it's kind of like this red flag, you know, here you are before us, but I would like to look at it as this recalibration. And, you know, keep working with them, get some good plans in order. It sounds like that outside parking is a mess. Sometimes we're just limited by the landscaping in which where the business is, but that's creative business planning then. You knew it before you bought the business, right? So, you know, whether you start hiring shuttles, you know, I don't know. You know, I don't wanna sit here and offer, but it's all about creative business planning at this point to make it successful. So the next time we're here, we're, to celebrate, right, or something like that, but.
And like I said, the only reason why you're here is because I sure as heck want you to be successful, because I believe you guys got a good product going. And we just gotta make sure nothing bad happens. Well, Reruns was a great place, and something stupid happened there, so I do worry about you guys, you know?
And then I do want to touch base on the underage. Everyone that comes in Select is definitely carded and searched. So I do want to touch base on that.
Sir, did you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah, I had a question, like, I know, years ago, you was able, like, to hire an off-duty police officer. Do they still do that?
You might need to take that up with them.
Yeah, you can still do that.
Oh, you still do that?
You can still do that.
Get an officer to agree to it. Can you give me the information, yep, I'll get the information.
Maybe Keith or Shields, you guys probably have all that
Yeah.
information.
Okay. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'd like a motion to receive and file at this point.
I think it's a receive and file.
If there was grounds to call in the licensee, then it would be a receive and file. If you believe that they were called in erroneously, then it would be to rescind.
Okay, receive and file.
I have a motion, is there a second to receive?
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in
But I
favor?
just don't wanna know what that means.
Okay.
Not me, not what that, what that.
Okay, it means, as the attorney said, and we were talking about, if you have another one in 6 months, then it goes, and if you have 3 in a year, it goes through a committee where you could lose your license. So, and as the alderman here,
It's a warning.
this one's like a warning.
Yeah, I mean, 2 or 3.
If you get 2 more, you wanna restate it since
Sure.
you already did.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yes, so there are 3 strikes. The first is a warning. The second, within a 6-month period, triggers a review by the attorney's office for a due process hearing, or a third within a 1-year period.
Got it.
And you guys calling the cops doesn't trigger that. I just
No,
wanna let
please
you know.
do, I wanna emphasize, if you feel you need to do it. But again, so many in such a short period of time throws up a red flag, is the one of them.
And
Even
understand,
if I'm calling the cops, it's still.
You should. Your safety, like, community safety is important. We're good?
Call the vote?
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to receive and file. Good luck, and
Good luck, guys.
as the alderman on the left said, hopefully we're celebrating the next time we see you all. Okay.
All right, next item, 1078-24, communication sponsored by Alder Kelly, requesting an informational presentation by the Racine County Human Services Director regarding group homes. You give me 1 minute.
Thank you for your patience. First of all, we really appreciate it.
That was a long one. No, you're fine. So my name's Yelena Jones. I'm the Administrator of the Aging Disability Services for Racine County.
And I am Natalie Minor. I am the Deputy Administrator. Oh, sorry, we have a presentation.
Thank you.
We have visuals.
So we're gonna make this go a little bit quicker, but the reason that we were called in tonight was to provide an overview of the assisted living facilities in Racine County, specifically in detail with the adult family homes that are here and who oversees these places.
So, to give a little backstory, again, we're gonna make this real quick, I swear. To know
Too quick,
how-
stop us.
Yeah. To know how we got here, so Racine has an overabundance of adult family homes. We have, it's like 270 licensed homes in County of Racine, which is more, we have just a high saturation rate when you look at the rest of the state. So to know how we got there, we just kind of wanted to go a little bit about how that happened. if you look, like, we started, if you think about mental health services and services for the developmentally disabled, everybody at one point got put in institutions. We have people who still are in Southern, which is out in Union Grove, who have been there since like age 6. That's what they used to do. They used to put children in the homes, and then they never left again. That has obviously changed since the 1900s. In the 70s, there was a big move to push everybody to get out of institutions. They formalized it a little bit more in the 80s when we created state waivers, which is what those mean. Basically, the states and the feds created funding to support people who have mental illness and developmental disabilities to live in other places besides institutions. As we keep going, Southern doesn't take 6-year-olds anymore. They closed their long-term admissions. They only take people for respite care. It's really short-term turnaround now. Then in 1999, we had the Olmstead Act. That was a Supreme Court act that a woman named, the initials was LC versus Olmstead, where the feds basically created a rule that stated that people with mental illness and developmental disability have the right to live in the communities they're from. Make them live in institutions is illegal. So after they passed that, all of the, I don't know if you guys remember when Ridgewood, way back in the day, used to have a mental health section.
Mhm.
That's when that started closing because of that Supreme Court Act, which is why we started having the MCOs, like Family Care Partnership, My Choice, all these various agencies come in whose job it is to support people to live in the community, rely less on institutions, and be able to stay in their homes for as long as possible until, you know, medical reasons, mental reasons, or physical reasons cause them to need to move into some kind of care setting. And even then, they'll help with that. So when you look at the continuing of care now that we have, since those institutions started closing down, is where you get like this continuum of assisted living in city of Racine, county of Racine, and the state. We have, we're gonna go talk a little bit about them, but for time's sake, we're not gonna talk about every single one of them.
So you guys will appreciate this, but we will get to the real reason that we're here. So there's different types of living facilities. Obviously, for the sake of the presentations, there's nursing homes, there's community-based residential living facilities. And then what we are here to focus on is adult family homes. We understand that Racine County has a high saturation of adult family homes. We wanted to bring some clarification of who oversees the different types of homes, licensed versus certified homes, and to provide some rough numbers of what is, you know, on the state website versus the managed care organization's websites about how many homes are there. So for an adult family home, as you can see, typically 3 to 4 adults who are not related reside there. It's operated by somebody that is also unrelated. The state of Wisconsin oversees the licensing for these homes. So when someone chooses to open up an adult family home, they have to go through the state and the Department of Quality Assurance to make sure that they're regulated appropriately. Currently, we have about 276 homes. Based on the estimate of 3 or 4 adults residing in each home, there's about 1,100 beds located within Racine County. As we know, and at least I know very closely with some of the referrals that we receive, obviously we work very closely with the city of Racine. The highest saturation rate is within the city. So,
Okay, I just got a question
Yeah.
to ask. So, I know the state oversees them. Is there any type of quota, or can we have hundreds of these
We have
things?
hundreds, we have 276
I'm
currently.
saying, so it can just,
Continue to grow.
In the county?
In the county.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly in Racine, the city of Racine.
But I can bet the
But
whole
it-
county.
Yes.
yeah.
If you look at a map, we don't have it attached here, like, there is a concentration of them in the city of Racine too. So essentially, to your point, what happens is that I decide to open a group home, I go buy a house somewhere, or rent a house somewhere. And that can be anywhere, because again, remember, all the lineage there, we want people to live in the communities. So they go buy a house in whatever neighborhood they can afford to buy the house, apply to the state and say, I'm gonna do these things, this is my plan, this is my care plan, this is how I'm gonna make this happen, I have the resources to make it happen. And then the state can certify them yes or no, they have to do a site review and all of that stuff. But once the state's licensed that home, they are open for business, essentially.
So as far as, certified homes, when you think of the difference of the adult family homes versus the certified adult family homes, is the licensed versus certified. Lots of times when you are called to, like when law enforcement's called, they're not aware of, you know, the license is certified. So once we get through this presentation, you'll understand why we're here tonight and how we're trying to kind of, provide some type of rectification to the problem, if you will, of how can we approach this issue. So for the certified homes, typically these are 1 to 2 bedrooms. They are, as you can see, certified through the managed care organization. A managed care organization is through the Medicaid program. Basically, any individual that needs long-term care services is able to get approved for those services if they're Medicaid eligible and they reach that need for level of care. And what ends up happening is these managed care organizations need somewhere to be able to place folks in the community. So they identify homes that are able to take individuals, and they go through their certifying, process basically that they have in place for their specific agency to allow people to be able to transition to these homes. As you can see, there's not a statewide directory for these providers, so the state of Wisconsin is not aware technically how many they have. However, the Family Care Partnership, PACE program, whoever it is, they're able to identify how many providers they have within their own arena. With that, we're estimating over 88 facilities, and based off of 1 to 2 beds, it's about 176 for the city of, or the county of Racine, excuse me.
So, again, so you can think about it. So, when you place somebody between a 3 to 4 bed or a 1 to 2 bed, it's all about how much care and services that person needs, right? So obviously, if it's a 1 to 2 bed, that person has a high need. I need a lot of attention. I need a lot of hand-holding. I need a lot of staff to watch that one person sometimes. What happens is that usually one of the managed care organizations will contact a group home that they already do business with and say, like, hey, what do you think about opening this, a home for Yelena? Yelena's problem, she needs a lot of care. I need a home just for her. So they will reach out to those group home owners who maybe will then buy another house somewhere. Again, don't have to go through the state to get it certified, just go to that MCO, go through their process, and open that home just for Yelena. Now, to Natalie's point, to interject there, it's a business. It is a business. However, at the same time, folks that, since we moved away from institutionalism, you need somewhere to place people that need this level of care, and where else do you place them? So it's a business that must exist. I think the percentage of folks, we work with them often, and obviously we're able to, you know, we receive different crisis referrals, different adult protective services referrals, or just contact from certain individuals if there's certain questions. However, we don't oversee any of these adult family homes. We're called because usually there's an issue or a managed care organization's working with them, and we're called in. So from out of the 1,100 beds that exist in the county of Racine County, we place and fund 75 of those. 75 people. So we only use a small percentage of the number of beds that are in the county. The rest of it is done by these MCOs, by these managed care organizations who are looking for placement for their members. And we know too, because we fund a fair amount of people, a 3 to 4 bed group home is probably gonna cost anywhere between $180 to $250 a day per person. So 4 people, yes, 4 people in a house every single day for, you know, $200-something. If I have a home just for Yelena, I am maybe getting $500 a day for just her to live there. So again, to Yelena's point, it is a business. So when I don't have somebody in one of those beds, I am not making the money that I might need in order to run the business also. So, and for the last thing, I just want to kind of say on the topic of group homes and what Human Services is funding, specifically for us, it's for individuals that do not qualify for Medicaid services for whatever reason, which is a small sliver typically, and our folks that don't qualify for long-term care services. Typically, you have to have some type of physical ailment that qualifies you for that program. So the folks that we're normally working with under behavioral health services is individuals that do not have that physical ailment, and it's just straight mental health. However, unfortunately, they are unable to live on their own, so that's why Racine County has to place them. Right, and I don't want to knock MCOs too much here, because they are, so we have the ADRC out at Ives Grove in Union Mount Pleasant, Union Grove, I forget where that line actually starts. But, anybody can go out there. If you have an elderly parent, if you have a disabled child, anybody can go out there and get screened for resources. And one of the things that the ADRC does is screen for managed care organizations. So for example, my dad had, some cardiac-related dementia. We had him screened for long-term care service if he needed to go into some kind of assisted care living or, nursing home because, you know, they don't really be able to afford that solely because they're very expensive.
So this takes us to, obviously, we want to provide the education portion of what the adult family homes and the purposes of, that they serve here in the community, and then we want to kind of go over the common questions that were asked. And lots of times this can come from, you know, it may be from law enforcement at times, other times it could be other, community partners, managed care organizations even sometimes are asking certain questions regarding different group homes, and we're discussing this. So some of the questions that we always get asked is who oversees the facilities, how do we report issues, whose job is it to make sure that the residents there are being managed appropriately, why are we saturated so high, which we've actually had state conversations as well with Department of Health Services, and how do we complain about these facilities. So we want to kind of, the next few slides will walk us through different initiatives that Racine County Human Services has actually headed off and where we're at with those initiatives.
So, go back to this question. Question of who oversees the facilities, it's usually, if it's a licensed facility, it's DQA in the state. What do we do if we think that there are problems happening, if we're not comfortable with what we're seeing, in terms of management and labor, and again, it all goes to DQA or that managed care organization who funds those placements. So I complain, you can call us and we will open, APS investigations on them and also loop in DQA when appropriate. So one of the things that we've been doing to help, when there are issues with adult family homes is created this County of Essential Worker, initiative. So CREW, which we call CREW. CREW is designed to do many things. One of them is to, help engage with people who are having mental health crises early and often, so it goes from maybe so it doesn't blow to a 10. Now, we try to intervene often so that we can try to nip something in the bud before it really kicks off. So as part of that, CREW is trying to reach out to these adult family homes that are having issues with members. And so like I said before, since we only fund like 70 odd people in these homes, a lot of the people who are living in these homes don't come from Racine County. They can come from all over the state. We actually found out at one point that Winnebago was giving other counties group home name and numbers in Racine in order to be like, hey, they do a really good job with high behavioral people. You should call them. And we're like,
To be fair, the owners
Great.
contacted Winnebago to report they had a business, so
yeah,
it works both
it's, you know, so we're like, that's great, but you are also maybe not able to manage that high needs of that person. So when things like that happen, CREW has been going out and trying to work with, first of all, the people, the consumer, the resident who's having the issue themselves, and then trying to work with whoever is funding that placement, whatever county they came from if they're not from here, guardians and family members, and trying to get everybody on the same page. Like, how do we stop repeated calls for service at this home because of this person? That can range from, maybe that's all it took is that one meeting, and maybe it's us, you know, contacting DQA and getting somebody to come down and like take a look at this house because nothing is being resolved. So it just depends on that person. Our goal overall with CREW is trying to reduce law enforcement's time that they have to spend also with these repeat calls to the group homes, to other people in the community who they can see that there's something, again, maybe it's at a 2 right now, and because I've been out there 14 times, I can see it's bubbling up and it's gonna become a 10 at some point. CREW is designed to try to intervene no matter what, not just at group homes, but anywhere in the county to try to stem that from happening. So we've been going around the last several years we have quarterly meetings with our law enforcement partners and with our EMS partners and fire partners to talk about issues that they're seeing in the communities. We've created avenues and pathways for them to contact us when they have somebody that they're worried about, that they're seeing early on, and doing roll calls and various different methods of outreach to try to get this message across to everybody.
So the message that we're providing to, whether it's law enforcement, EMS, fire, any of those individuals that obviously we know that crisis will be able to intervene, not better, because they can always de-escalate things. However, the aftermath of all the follow-up that it requires, it's just not really feasible for law enforcement and fire to be responsible for doing this, or EMS. We ask that these referrals are sent to this crew email, which is only used for, obviously, professionals, should we say. We've only provided the information of fire and fire, law enforcement, and EMS to make sure that they're providing the referrals to us. Right now, just to be very transparent, we have struggled with receiving those referrals from the different entities, so we continue to push this message out at the different roll calls that we do. What we do on the back end, so we, obviously, if we're called there when state law enforcement that's present, we obviously go out, de-escalate the situation. What we want to ensure is the aftermath, the next morning, what happens? Just because that crisis now is averted, what are the next steps to make sure it doesn't happen again? So what we're doing is we always chase the money down, who's paying for this placement, because that tells you a lot there. So if the placement is a managed care organization, obviously we're figuring out what county they may have been approved for long-term care services in. They typically, if they have a guardian, we are getting in contact with that guardian. If there's another county funding, because sometimes they will fund for just mental health placement, and they may have identified a home here within the county of Racine, we ensure that they are responsible, or they realize what's going on within, the current placement. Lots of those calls, and I'll speak from just like my own personal experience, when we've had really problematic situations where we'll use Ascension Hospital just because it's here in the city. If someone's continuously being brought to Ascension by law enforcement because the group home's saying that they're unable to maintain them, and then we're getting the report or we're getting called in for crisis intervention, the next day what we're doing is figuring out, are they ours, meaning are they for a Racine County resident, or if they came from another county, we're getting in contact with that county, the payer source, which is usually the managed care organization, the guardian. We will create a meeting. Sometimes we include hospital staff. In the past, we have included law enforcement, either if an investigator has been involved in this particular situation, to really bring the high urgency that this person's needs are not being met within this home. And then we also try to highlight that it's not law enforcement's responsibility to ensure that this person is able to be maintained within this home. So then we try to set some parameters and some education with the group home staff, which I will highlight, ultimately is not Racine County Human Services responsibility, because we could not provide education for all these folks. However, when we have contact with individuals that could benefit from some education, we are providing that information to make them aware that they should be able to maintain that individual. With that being said, we create the crisis plans to ensure if there's another crisis that emerges, how are we able to de-escalate things, and then obviously the appropriate advocacy. And every referral that we receive on a group home, we did create a little bit of a fuss back in COVID times. We were probably receiving like 1 to 3 referrals per day for group homes, very high. I think obviously with the pandemic at that time, it was a stressful time. So we did have a larger meeting where we pulled in the surrounding managed care organizations that were involved here, our state liaison, and we came up with a plan to actually send every referral over to the Department of Quality Assurance, that any individual that we had contact with that resides in a group home. They did kick off an initiative. It actually just wrapped up last December. It was probably going on for a couple of years there, but Racine County was the cause of that. We were very happy that we were, to bring attention to the issue.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, it might be for the fire department guy. So I've heard there was a lot of calls that where the fire department has to show up to these places, like I call them frequent flyers and stuff like that. I want to know who's responsible for paying for the calls, and the fire department has to go over there.
So if I were to guess, it's going to be the member's insurance, the individual who they're calling regarding, their insurance would get billed for those calls.
I know you
That
guys,
would be what it would be.
I know you guys getting
Well, that's hard to say. It depends on what their insurance is, if they're Medicare, Medicaid,
I wasn't meaning to jump in, but, I mean, I hear.
That's a legitimate question, no.
There's a lot of it going on here, and the more of these we have, the harder it is, you know, we're looking for a referendum on fire, you know, on fire personnel and stuff like that. I'm worried about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And one of the things, Yelena was talking about, like, you know, part of what we're doing with, when we have referrals for adult family homes too, is really doing some, you know, the Jesus meetings with some of these group homes about, can you manage this person? Because you were aware during the referral that, you know, maybe she has the intellect of a 4-year-old and you're expecting her to act like a grown adult and make those decisions. You knew that they acted out. There was a reason that you needed a 1-to-1 placement for them. And now you're surprised all of a sudden when they're acting exactly how you were told they were going to act. So that is part of the conversation that our crew workers are continuing to have with group homes, making sure that, like, is this somebody really who is within your realm, within your scope of practice? Because that's becomes problematic and unsafe potentially for everybody involved. So,
When I think the general, highlight too, is just making sure that individuals are not getting criminalized for behaviors that might be tied with mental health or whatever it may be. We understand sometimes there can be a little bit of a gray area there, but ensuring that them being taken to jail overnight does not fix the problem, because the next morning we're dealing with it.
That kind of gets into a question I'm curious about. Having worked in education with special needs students, I'm just curious more on the police side. When, are the police officers notified in a district that they have a person that can be triggered by something that escalate to a 20, let alone a 10?
so part of it is dependent on if we know that they're there.
Okay,
Because again, you know, Columbia County could place somebody in Racine and don't tell us that they've done that.
okay.
Or that the MCO in Columbia County has placed them in Racine and don't tell us that they did that. So one of the things that we do try to do also is when we have contact with somebody who maybe meets that kind of criteria, we will reach out to the guardians and see if they'll find a release of information that we can tell law enforcement. We can create a crisis plan that says, like, what are some triggers? What are ways maybe to de-escalate this person if you have contact with them? These are normal behaviors, et cetera. This is the diagnosis, things to be aware of. And then we give that information to dispatch, and so the dispatch can relay that information when and if they're called on them.
Okay.
Again, and that's part of the coordination that crew worker's trying to do, because everybody's got to agree to release that because it's
Okay.
private medical information.
Yeah, you got the legal HEPA side. Then I have a question for the police officer side. Do you have special units to deal with these types of calls, or is that part of the training? How does that part work? Because, you know, some people can be triggered and they see a blue uniform and all kinds of things start happening in their heads or something.
Right. Right now we have a CIT program that we send all of our new officers through once they get out of the academy. So through, with NAMI and the county, which is a 40-hour course, through Gateway that we're doing. We actually have a course coming up in 2 weeks with our new officers that just got out of the academy. And it's for, dealing with, public or just people with mental health.
Okay.
From all aspects, how to, de-escalate situations that they may be in.
Okay. All right, thank
And
you.
a good chunk of your officers have gone through that training. I mean,
Correct.
it's
Most of
everybody
our
new
department
now
has.
because everyone who was already there has gone through.
It's a requirement of every new officer now. Probably about 80% of our department is trained on.
And I think just to wrap us on up here, so we just want to highlight that obviously, in order for human services, which we like to relate to as crew, in order for them to be able to assist, we need to know when there's issues going on. I know sometimes with the officers and the different roll calls, not just RPD because they're here, but the different municipalities, what we try to highlight is we don't need much information. If you've gone out there and you've de-escalated and identified that you don't need a crisis response at that given time, they can just send a quick synopsis of what occurred, name, date of birth, the address, quick 2 lines of what happened. We will follow up with them the next day and try to provide the services that we can provide. But I think the part that's frustrating at times is sometimes it takes so much time for the different folks that are going out there and trying to assist, and it seems like a never-ending issue. So we are raising our hand and saying, please send them our way so we can try to, fight against this a little bit and try to provide some more resources. And then, of course, in order for us to notify the managed care organizations of issues that are going on, or the state, Department of Quality Assurance, we have to be aware of it.
Are you working with the city to make sure that there's a line of communication there?
Yep, we actually have roll calls, is it 2 weeks?
I think it's really good at 18.
Yeah. So we've started offering within the last couple of years, they had to kind of pause during COVID times because nobody wanted to be next to each other. But we do try to go to every roll call at, different municipalities. Sometimes they'll do it with just like the sergeants, lieutenants, certain, departments with trainings. Racine Police Department, just because of the heavy saturation, they've always invited us in for all the roll calls where we provide the same information and make sure that officers are aware. And as we know, we're all human, so sometimes information, as time passes, they kind of forget, and it's just a nice reminder to make sure that they know we're here for extra
And
support.
they come to our crew meetings, and we have a direct contact with them, so.
This is Monday.
Oh, yes,
I wanna,
Yes,
oh,
sir.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry, no.
I just wanna finish that.
What do you mean?
So, as you know, I think from our previous conversations, maybe a year ago or something, so where these conversations kind of started was, you know, in my district anyways, the homes will pop up out of nowhere, and then I have residents that are mad because there's someone trying to jump off roof or whatever, and you got police officers getting kicked in the mouth and all this stuff, so it's escalating. So I'm glad to hear that there's a line of communication again between the city and the county. How do we get notification, or is it something that has to be done at the state level to try to slow down the influx of, because I'm not saying they're all bad, but there's some people that are taking advantage of the system, and they're paying some of these workers, I've seen it firsthand, $10 an hour, they go in and they're not really caring for these people. And I've heard from the first responders, unfortunately, that tell me, you know, the situations that they walk into. So how do you kind of start to wrap your hands around that?
I think it's just truly the advocacy and making sure that they're reporting the situation, either if they're contacting Department of Quality Assurance and they want to take that on, obviously we can't stop anybody from making a report, but I think the easiest way is we have staff to do this, and this is part of the initiative that we've tried to accomplish with crew as well, is making sure that we're still fully engaged in trying to help these situations in any way that we can, and we can't really do it without the information. So I just really voice giving us the referrals, their crew referral email, or if they're contacting the crisis line, and we'll ensure that we're, you know, following up appropriately.
We've definitely had issues before where we've had concerns about ownership and staffing. And when those kind of things come up, that's where we are, I mean, that's where, on the continuum of care of what we do within who we're working with there, that's where we really kind of go all in on that person and say, like, we need to talk to everybody, because I don't know if you're aware of what you're paying for and how much you're paying for that person not to do anything.
Right.
You know, and issues like that. And so, and that's kind of also where DQA will then come in too, because a lot of group homes have requirements from DQA to report certain things, to let them know when they've had contact, when they've, you know, had somebody go into the hospital or whatever. And are you following the DQA requirements that have been set out? And then DQA comes in with their own, I don't say punishment, but their rectification for that.
But I do think, just to fully answer your question and the point of it, Department of Health Services can't oversee everybody, especially like the certified homes, that they're not blessing them to open their doors and say, hey, we could take consumers or clients here. They are providing the licensing for the state folks, and that mechanism is reporting it. Obviously, all of them can go through the Department of Quality Assurance. However, that enforcement, it really has to come county level, and that's the part that's a little hard, because we would love a, like, magic wand to say, okay, where are all these homes, what are all the issues going on, but the capacity just continues to grow. So I think this is a good plan for us to try to combat against this, not so much stop the business, because we know we need it in our community, however, ensuring that the providers that we do have are ethically providing the services that they signed up for.
I read a thing not too long ago that said that within like the next 10 years, we're gonna need hundreds of thousands of more like nursing home and adult family homes to care for.
Old baby boomers
Yep.
again.
Yep. So this is, I mean, along that same track, this is where that continuum comes in.
One last, how many managed care organizations, and are they just organizations, or if I can say I'm licensed and I can go get a group home, and how is all this monitored?
So the managed care organizations, the largest ones in this area are Community Care and My Choice. They are throughout the state of Wisconsin. However, they're assigned to like regions. So if you will, it's very regulated, should I say, and there's structure to it. It's a large business. Inclusive is known as well, but My Choice and Community Care are the biggest family care providers.
They're basically state contracts that they have, and so they're companies that do that.
Okay.
The adult family home specifically, yeah, I mean, you in theory could go buy a house, put an application in with the state, and win your shingle.
How are they monitored? That's the part that,
So that's a 64,000 question all the time, is that there's again, so if you're not following the rules that you agreed to do from when you petitioned to open your license, CQA can come in and fine you or put you on a plan of correction or, withdraw your license if it's egregious enough, so.
it's hard to monitor all this.
Well, so it's all, again, it's all
With
about.
all those houses,
And
yes.
who's gonna report it? So sometimes if EMS or fire law enforcement is out there, yes, they provide a certain smidget of information of what they see at that given time. But if we can really get in there and identify when we go into a home, if there's safety concerns, we're highlighting that. If there's medication, provided that the MAR doesn't match up with whatever they're provided, or if there's, I don't know, unmet food needs or, supervision needs, we're addressing all of those at once, and it's more likely, not that the other ones can't be outrageous enough that the Department of Quality Assurance won't react right away, but they're inundated with all these referrals. So the reality is, in order to really grasp their attention, we have to say, hey, and the part that we like to add is if they are Racine County residents, or even if they're not Racine County residents, if our Adult Protective Services workers go into a home and we're concerned about someone's safety because something is very outrageous, we have the ability to remove them from there if it's that detrimental of concern or whatever it may be, where we have to find them another place to go. Now, don't get me wrong, we will work with that payer source to say, hey, we need some type of respite care or whatever it may be, but there has to be some level of oversight, and unfortunately, I think there's no choice but for it to come through Human Services. So we really, instead of saying, what is the state gonna do or who oversees, it's us. We need to, even though it's legally not us, there's no other mechanism put in place for this throughout the state.
You guys getting funding cut with all this mess going on?
Not as of yet. Knock on wood, right? Fingers crossed.
Your way is less expensive than the old way.
Yes, it is.
A lot less.
It is.
So I had asked, fire and PD to come and just kind of, report how many resources you're expending towards the group home.
I mean, I can speak to, so I guess, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Thank you for your presentation, too, it was very good. Out of the 270 homes, how many of them are in Racine?
We would have to look at a map.
Okay,
because
so I guess, are those,
yeah.
is that all inclusive, though? That includes Racine City?
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
so I wasn't setting
And
you up, I promise.
No.
So we have 252 homes in Racine, and there was 270 in the county. And I didn't know about crew until just now. So that means fire hasn't been calling you.
No, we actually just were out at the station maybe 2 months ago, I was gonna say 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I don't know.
Which one?
Across the street.
Okay, so I wasn't there,
Yeah.
so I didn't know.
You were.
So that's good, what I'm saying is I'll open up those resources
Yep.
to, maybe use you more often, I'll let everybody know.
Absolutely.
But last year, so we, as a department, go on around, a little under 13,000 calls for EMS fire. And a little under 1,000 were for the adult family group homes. So that tells you how often we go there. And some of those calls, the majority are for lift assist, and that's where you all helped us last year write that ordinance. That'll help us, we're hoping, for this year. And what that does is allows us as a department to bill, the adult family group homes and group homes more frequently for those lift assists. And what it does, instead of hitting that patient's, insurance, it'll hit the facilities. And if they don't pay those bills, then it hits the tax roll at the end. So the goal is that they staff them correctly, because of course we support them, right? If people need them, we support them. But we also want them to have the correct people there and be able to do what they say they can do. And a lot of times, our fire department's going there with a lot of, fire engine or ambulance going out of service for quite some time, working with police hand in hand, and just moving somebody from a wheelchair to a bed, or, right, real simple things that a home should be able to do, and those are the things they say they can do. So we're hopeful that in this next year with the new ordinance, with your help, that we see a reduce in calls, a reduction. But your stuff was
Well,
really good, so.
And I email to crew will always help as well, because then we can just highlight that they're signing up for a level of care that they may not be able to maintain.
I was trying to look at who I sent the invite to.
I did get one now, I looked.
I am awful with names sometimes, I can't remember.
But that's
who
for
that was.
Monday, when,
Yes, that one for
when
Monday.
the chief said that.
But there's, we dropped off, we were there, we dropped off a bunch of cards, we're gonna get more made, so we will
Okay.
give you more, too.
Thank you. You will hear from us, I promise.
Thank you.
Good, no, we want to.
So on our end, when I took over patrol division in 2023, I think I started, one of the complaints for officers was adult homes and group homes. So we established relationships. So they've been in our department several times, had roll calls to educate us on this information, as well as giving us the crew referrals. Sergeant Neighbors is actually our point of contact for that, so if an officer has a call, at one of the adult facilities, repeatedly, secret pliers, call them.
Which the ER does not like anymore, I just found that out last week.
We would get that information to Sergeant Neighbors, who would send it through the crew referral. Sometimes I do it directly because we've established relationships, so sometimes you'll get a call or she'll call me. We actually just talked to her about a call, and I'll bring that up on Monday when we have our crew meeting. I only went back to the beginning of 2024, up through yesterday, we ran these numbers, and we've had 445 calls, different facilities within the city. And again, so if it's a place like this address on Stafford, which we've been to 27 times, Stratford, we would send that. And so the issues would be the personnel. They're calling us for things we don't need to be there for. It's their responsibility. Somebody walks away from the home. That's not our responsibility. Not crime. Our responsibility to keep track of them. That's the personnel, people that are employed there, those homes. And so that's the issue, right? So we get sucked into these resources sometimes by having to deal with that, but that's when we would make that referral to crew, that they can follow up with the regulations. They make sure that people they're supposed to be doing what they're doing.
Right.
That are capable of doing those things.
It comes out also with some education on their end of like, people are allowed to walk around, and you're allowed to leave your house, and it's not, jail.
Yeah, they have these, they'll call us for everything, which is why the call volume is so high, right? Things that they shouldn't be there for, behavioral issues that they have. Well, that's their responsibility to manage that. But we get called. And so that's when we do that, we try to refer it as much as we can to crews so that they are aware of it, just so they can follow up to educate them, then, or make sure that they got the right people.
Right.
It's a slow
It's a constant learning.
process
It's a
sometimes,
learning thing.
and a constant education, and we're so new, some of our guys don't even, we're in the same boat when we're recycling through officers. They have to be educated then on all this again.
As long as they're not frequent flyers, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are for sure the ones they're gonna get referred to.
All right, Chairman. So what's interesting about this topic, just 2 years ago, this committee, or maybe more, whenever Terry McCarthy, our chairman, was chair of this committee, and vice chair, we were trying to look at ways where public safety, and we extended ourselves to the police department, to the fire department, and we pulled in the attorney's office, we pulled in the courts as well. And it was like, how can we be of service? And this committee help in some way, whether it's a creation of ordinances, whatever it was. And this topic got brought up, group homes, and I had just asked Chief Hansen not too long ago, for the updated, at the time, he brought out the calls of services that, the fire department had to go to, and I'm just gonna pull up one, I mean, I have the whole list before me, but, one was like 68 calls, another one's 100 calls within a year's time, so, that's a quite substantial, use of our service on just at one location, or a few locations here. But at that time, we were kind of in a roadblock on what we could do as a city. And there is a lot with the state law that, and you brought up a little bit, that our hands are kind of tied. But at the time, Attorney New had talked about, a lot of complaints have gone through the city's attorney's office. And so whenever we were getting those, we were filtering. I know New had thought, I don't know if that was the DQA, are we still doing that? Are we as a city?
That would be a better question suited for New, I do not know.
So, but because you're here and you're doing this, I'm wondering, you know, if that's where the complaints need to shift to, not so much going into our attorney's office.
I would agree, because
Okay.
when we receive them, at least then it's a mechanism for us to filter what actually needs to happen. Like I said, everyone will be reported to the Department of Quality Assurance once we receive the referral. But initially, obviously, human safety is the first thing. So we're gonna make sure that whoever's residing there is safe and okay to remain there. However, just because they're safe there for the time being, doesn't mean that all their needs are being met. And that's what we really try to have our workers go in and do, and to ensure, that they're meeting those parameters for whatever that person needs for their care and needs.
So I'm just wondering, have you worked with our city's attorney's office? I just think that would be a great partnership, and I knew at the time that we brought this up, she had filed a handful, and more have come since then, because I remember referring one her way.
I wonder with like the crew referral email, obviously we can send it over your way as well.
That would be great.
That was on the slide, but they're still professionals. I think even if it's, you know, our intention was fire, EMS, and law enforcement, and make sure it doesn't get out to the hospitals or other folks, because really when those referrals are coming there, they have to not be imminent. We don't check that email 24/7. We check it very frequently on a daily basis, but we know after hours, we do request that they contact either the crisis line, or if it's Adult Protective Services, whatever, that one of our workers are actually screening if it's an imminent concern or not.
And your contact information is, for our consumption, do we have it somewhere?
I should have, my business cards are here. Yes, I do.
Perfect.
So, I'll just leave a little stack here.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Now they gave mine back.
Oh, here you go.
No, no, you got them all. Okay, I guess I need a motion here so we can just receive and file this, I believe.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I don't think we'll, any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 020125.
Communication presented by Alder Tilly and Alder Davis requesting a discussion on whether to route all cigarette, vaping products, and tobacco retail licenses to the Public Safety and Licensing Committee and Common Council for approval.
Would the makers of want to start?
Yes, so I've had some concerns, I had talked to Alder Davis about this as well. I think there might have been, an email chain somewhere in existence, that how can we get a notification when these come into our areas? So that's kind of, I had one, and I think they're just getting, a conditional use permit, or not even, to operate. So we have them just popping up all over, essentially, that's one part of the issue. So how can we kind of rein this in a little bit, I guess is my question.
So So right now, the ordinance just states that it needs cigarette, tobacco, vaping licenses, obviously without the liquor or anything, just those establishments themselves only come to committee if there's a record.
Okay,
So that's just what the ordinance states right now, obviously that's what we follow.
okay. It's possible ordinance.
Yes,
And there is, when you're done, I'd like to add one thing.
that would be the option, I would change the ordinance. I'll come to public safety and licensing with or without a record, kind of like what we do with our like second hand or the waste tire, how those come administratively to you.
Yeah, I think we had discussed this before.
Yeah, you would just need to, if there's a record, they should be present. If there's no record and you still want to see it for approval, you could put that in the ordinance as well. That way they don't have to come in front of you. And just kind of working through that way.
Sure. Did you wanna come in?
No.
I would just add that if the schools come into play, because we didn't get on the planning commission, we didn't allow a convenience store. In fact, it's in your area, right across from one of the school, Frank's School or something over there. I don't know if the same owner is there, but they didn't get a tobacco license because they were so close to the school. Like, right across the street from one of the schools over in that area.
Yeah, very aware.
Actually, I think that they decided they didn't even want to apply for the license at the time because of the conflict.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, by the way.
I think we were just kind of more, because that one popped up for me anyways, on, Washington by the fire station. And so all you see now is they all kind of emulate the same banners, neon lights all over, and then you go by and you see all these kind of glass pipes, and so it's just like, ugh. It would be nice to know that that's coming, because then you just one day happen to drive down the street and then you're like, oh, hey, look at this. So, I don't know, a little oversight would be nice.
Another question. So tobacco is just
Administrative.
Yeah, unless there's a record of some kind.
And like with what tobacco means, or?
yeah, tobacco. No, what it,
Oh, sorry. It's late.
it is and up the street. So only if they have some type of
Record. Background.
then there's no, do we have any quotas? Any, just 1,000, 150, 100?
There's no cap that I know of in the ordinance here in the city of Racine.
Can you put a cap on that?
So that is a complicated question. There is a state state law that requires uniform application of cigarette, tobacco, and vaping laws. The city cannot deviate, what's considered substantially, from the state scheme. So that means we cannot use our own forms, we have to use the state-provided forms. There's not a lot of wiggle room. The state sets what we have to do. There is the ability for this committee to review them, but there's not a strong way to change from what the state requires. For more specifics about what substantial means, that's probably a question best sent to Attorney Arnn, but there is not a lot of wiggle room here.
I think Pete might have started with this. But, the occupancy permit. So, 16th and Taylor. Before was a restaurant, so that's how did it turn into now the smoke shop without going before planning and heritage, because was a convenience type place?
Yeah.
Did somebody break that down for me? That's what I'm.
Yeah, it was like a fish restaurant, and then it became a vape house, but it never got a conditional use permit, because they did change the use.
So I would have to look at that one. I do believe they have an occupancy permit. I don't know how the planning heritage.
It never came there.
I don't know how that works, and with occupancy, that's something that would have to go there for that. I'm not 100%
That's
sure.
interesting.
But I can look and see if they have I'm pretty sure they have an occupancy, because think I looked this one up. Essentially what they would do is they come to our office. Anyone can come to our office, apply, any new businesses, we have them apply for occupancy and the cigarette tobacco, if that's that type of business that they're looking for. The occupancy goes through a workflow, so it hits city development, it hits all the other departments in the city. And the tobacco obviously stays with the clerk's office. If a record comes, I would bring it to the committee. If not, then it would just administratively be approved once it has all the sign off from pretty much all the people who go through occupancy as well.
That's where I need a bit of understanding with,
Well,
for you all planning committee.
yeah, never got, apparently, Jeff's department decided it didn't need to.
Okay.
That's a city development question.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, I know that.
But it had, she said it had to go through planning and development department.
One of the things that, the real problem with all this, back in the day, I remember we went after, Dairy Queen for signage. You have to have so much window space cleared, but there seems to be no oversight at all on these vape signs, all these neons. None of these were allowed, and I just wanna know why nobody's saying or doing anything about these. I don't know who to ask.
City development.
Okay, because this is a problem, I see the one on the old Dairy Queen on 16th, all these different signs, and none of these, everybody's just slapping stuff up on their windows, and they should have to come for a review like they used to.
I agree.
don't know,
I can say I know when anyone's doing anything with signage, to an extent, they have to apply with city development essentially for their signs.
But, I don't know if any of these people are doing it, because these things are, all these banners up in front of windows, like, and blocking with stickers and everything like that, none of this stuff was allowed, and we need to start going back to oversight on this. Now, gotta ask this question, so do we want every tobacco and vape license to come through here? Because usually it's overseen by the city clerk's office. If there's a problem, they always bring them to us, and if somebody's breaking the law, they come to us, like the place on the Taylor Mart, we shut them down for tobacco for a while.
Well, I think any new vape store opening up, you should at least be notified about it.
The basis is a vape smoke shop type store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we'd have to change an ordinance to do?
Yes, currently they all go to the city clerk. This committee could choose to direct them to itself for review, and approval or denial. It would require an ordinance change. It would still have to be submitted to the city clerk in writing and then forwarded on to the city attorney for drafting an assignment, so we could not draft an ordinance, on the spot right here. I would also ask, so there is, because the state statute changed last year to include vaping, our ordinances have not changed to include vaping. The ordinance hooks into the statute, so if we consider it still covered, but if we are in the business of changing ordinances, we would request that it be updated to include vaping explicitly.
Communication will get submitted to you shortly.
That was the said button.
Any other questions?
No.
If none,
I do gotta say, so would you be contacting this, city development on this sign thing, or would I be doing, or you want me to do that?
So, like, go out
Well, I gotta
places,
find,
or?
no, I wanna find out what the rules are, because ain't nobody following them. These things are up all over the
So
city
I
and nothing.
guess you're checking it out, you just answered your own question.
Like
I
they-
can ask Jeff to reach out to the
I remember when they,
city and
I'll
went
ask
after
him
Dairy
also.
Queen because of the signs that they had that were nationwide, and we went after Dairy Queen like no tomorrow, but all these other stores, no window space, they're all covered up by beer signs and everything else.
Would you mind telling me the ordinance?
Okay.
All right, I'll put them in
For the signage or for the referral to
The referral.
that is, section 2-119.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I need a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item, 0238-25, communication sponsored by Alder Pete on behalf of the City of Racine Police Department for the licensed premise report.
Anything jump out at you?
Anything?
All right, good evening, thank you.
Thank you.
So between February twenty-fifth and, March tenth, we had 18 calls of service, different, bars throughout the city. 6 being officer initiated for extra attention or crime prevention. Total of those calls being a fight, unwanted party, robbery, criminal damage to property, or civil trouble. 2 calls that stuck out to me, one was a robbery at Double Vision on March first, which is still under investigation. And, a fight at pub on Wisconsin, which happened on Saturday, where a bouncer was punched in the throat and is still in ICU. Other than those 2 calls,
We normally don't have any kind of problems at pub on Wisconsin, do we?
I thought we used to.
I mean, they used to a long time ago, but
yeah, they're popping up quite a bit lately.
most, but are they initiated, I'm looking here, called in by bartender?
The bartender is usually calling it in, so they're even trying to be proactive and get us involved ahead of time, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask that, do you think that we should be calling them in because of this, thing to the throat, or doesn't?
No, no, I don't think so. It wasn't actually reported until the next day, like, the security guard actually called in, said he was, assaulted, and they took him to the hospital, and they intubated him from
So nothing else other than those 2 items stuck out. Okay, thank you. Any,
Motion to receive and file? Am I
do you have
correct?
any other questions?
Nope.
If none, then
Motion to approve.
do I have a
Oh, we have to
second?
approve, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, and our last item, 0237-25, communication sponsored by Alder Pete requesting any consideration and any formal expression of concern or other actions pursuant to the police report.
Anybody have any?
Nope.
I didn't see anything that stuck out.
Move to receive and file.
Is there a
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Last recommendation, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Move to adjourn.
Perfect.
You guys are awful.